Hi, my name is Mark DeFoor, and I would like to share 10 components of leadership I believe are important to student athletes as they begin their post-secondary careers. The transition to college can be challenging, even for the most prepared. Living away from home for the first time, adjusting to the academic rigors of college courses, meeting new people, managing your time, meeting the demands of your coaches, and being responsible for your personal health and well-being are all responsibilities young people are not accustomed to handling alone. The following 10 components are a guide to succeed during the shock and awe phase of college life. Setting goals is critical to the success of athletes in both sports and life. Goals serve two general purposes in athletics. First, they can be used as a benchmark or reference for athletes to assess themselves. Second, they can be used as a focal point for athletes to determine strategies for competition. It's important to stay committed to your goals and be willing to evaluate and change them when needed. Goals must be realistic and should not become unrealistic expectations that overwhelm you. It's normal to have high expectations for yourself when setting goals. However, it can become unhealthy when expectations turn into ridiculous obsessions. Goals should be specific, measurable, and include a timeline. It's important for goals to be about the process and performance, not the outcome. If your goal is to average 15 points per game, but one night you score 12 points with 10 rebounds and have 11 assists, then by focusing on the wrong thing, you diminish an outstanding performance and sell yourself short. Whether setting career goals, performance goals, or activity goals, implications can be far-reaching. Of the primary learning modes, we all have one we prefer more than others. What is the main way you take in information? Do you need pictures or graphs to learn? In a game, are visual images of your opponent etched into your mind? Do you find yourself talking to teammates and coaches to understand why a play didn't work? Is it useful to have the game plan during timeouts to use as a reference? Does this help you remember the tendencies of your opponent? Might you benefit the most from an in-game experience? Sometimes the only way to learn is through the failures of real-life experience. It can be painful, but you generally learn the most from these types of mistakes. Taking notes represents one of the two major ways in which student athletes are exposed to and have the opportunity to learn course material. Notes represent a record of an important lecture or meeting. Notes also help you decode and organize material in a way that best suits your learning style. It's important to prepare in advance as you plan to attend a meeting or event that requires note-taking. Have a general understanding of the topic. Arrive to the event early and record notes in a separate notebook. Be an active learner and ask questions if you need clarity about something. Review your notes and rewrite them if needed. More importantly, use them to study. Successful studying is a result of planning and persistence. Don't procrastinate. Study in an environment with few distractions and minimal interruptions. Focus. No TV, iPods, cell phones, or annoying roommates in the background. Eliminate the clutter in your mind by taking care of unresolved issues beforehand. Be aware of your surroundings. Be in the moment, but also have the foresight to look ahead. If you find yourself drifting, have a cue to bring your focus back or the results can be disastrous. Keep your blinders on and focus. Physical health is important to improving memory and concentration. You won't make it down the mountain if you're not in peak physical condition. Disruptions are almost guaranteed, but you must avoid them to stay on your skis. Get your mind right and don't bring personal problems with you. Stay relaxed and handle the turns with ease. Don't stress over deadlines or the pressure to complete the entire project at once. Break down the course into segments and master one at a time. The finish line will be there before you know it. Leaders come in all shapes and sizes. Leaders can be individuals or they can take the form of a group. Regardless of who they are, it's important they have the right character traits to lead. Can they affect change in others? Do they want to serve the people they lead? It should be important for leaders in today's society to put the needs of others before their own. A servant leader helps people under them develop their full potential. Servant leaders enable, develop, and support the team. They leverage the abilities of individuals to best serve the overall mission of the team. Leaders must be receptive listeners. They must be empathetic and value the uniqueness of others. Being self-aware allows a great leader to better understand complex issues. They seek to persuade others rather than use their coercion to understand and accept difficult decisions. They're visionaries and have the unique ability to conceptualize beyond the day-to-day operations. With conceptualization comes foresight. Great leaders have the ability to predict the likely outcome of an event. They use lessons from the past to see the future and are committed to the growth of the people they serve. Servant leaders will do anything to cultivate the professional growth and development of teammates and colleagues. What could be more diverse than an African American race car driver in a predominantly Caucasian-driven business? Bubba Wallace has inspired many by his pursuit to advance minorities in NASCAR. He has attracted major sponsors like Michael Jordan, Wheaties, McDonald's, DoorDash, and Columbia Sportswear. In business and communities alike, diversity and inclusion allow the realization of goals and accomplishments. It promotes creativity, unique perspectives, and new opportunities. Diversity in professional sports allows sports teams to thrive in a similar way. Professional sports leagues all over the world have undertaken the issue of diversity and inclusion in terms of hiring practices for leadership positions. The NBA is leading the way in the hiring of women in senior management positions. The WNBA has taken an aggressive stance to address issues regarding minority and LGBTQ rights. Major League Soccer announced a diversity hiring policy for general managers and coaches. Companies across different industries are understanding that managing diversity and inclusion increases opportunities for organizational success where efforts are multifaceted. Do you have a win-at-all-cost mentality, or can you act independently and separate from the normal expectations of society? If you were in competition and saw your opponent in distress, would you sacrifice your personal goals to help another person? As coaches, we all look for qualities of high moral character in student athletes. Sometimes our messages can be somewhat contradicting as we want certain character traits on the field and other traits off it. We must be clear in our message and mentor our athletes so the qualities of their character are evident in everything they do. Actions off the field have as much consequence as actions on the field. Getting a 15-yard personal foul penalty in football or a technical foul in basketball has similar repercussions as being disrespectful to another person in a social setting. It's important for schools to have expectations for student athletes regardless of who they are. The bottom line is, all character counts. A final exam, a conference game, an argument with a teammate are all stressors that immediately cause negative thoughts. There's no way to avoid it. It's important for student athletes to recognize when they're stressed and implement effective ways to manage the conditions. As a coach, we can help athletes manage stress by acknowledging that it exists. We can't underestimate what stresses someone else. What may seem insignificant to us can be a monumental catastrophe to others. We should not be judgmental and help athletes understand we care about their problems. This will hopefully encourage them to share their emotions with us, their coaches. When practical, some stressors can be used as a model to help athletes manage stress. It's not always necessary to step in and solve every problem. That's not reality. Instead, we can use small issues to teach lessons on how to cope. It pays to be a winner is the mantra of the United States Navy SEALs. The benefits of being a winner mean less PT, extra food, and more sleep. Winning in their environment requires mental toughness. Just don't quit. It's how one SEAL explains it. Yeah, right. Easier said than done. It requires an extraordinary level of the 5 C's. Control. Only you are in control of your attitude. Understand setbacks are part of training and competition. Control your emotions and suffer in silence. Get your mind right and control your thoughts. Concentration. Be in the now. Block out external factors and don't dwell on mistakes. WIN. Win. Focus on what's important now. Consistency. Have a routine that prepares you for training and competition. Performing at the same level every time is what separates good from great. Learn from the mistakes to minimize future problems. Commitment. If you don't know why you're doing what you do, then it's going to be almost impossible to perform at your best. Your level of commitment is the foundation for goals you set. Commitment also means how you behave. Work on your weaknesses to maximize your contributions to the team. Confidence. The belief in yourself and your abilities is the linchpin to being successful. Self-confidence doesn't happen by accident. It's a byproduct of setting challenging goals, reaching those goals, thinking positively about yourself and your abilities. Michigan State head basketball coach Tom Izzo was quoted as saying, "Players play, but tough players win." Success at anything will always come down to this: focus and effort, and we control both. That's a quote from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Clearly, The Rock is highly motivated, but the question is, how does he get motivated? Does he motivate himself? Do past experiences motivate him? Do others motivate him? I've always been a firm believer that we must put ourselves in the right conditions to become motivated. The challenging part is figuring out what those conditions are. What initiates our motivation? What triggers us to be the hardest worker in the room? How do we control the intensity of our motivation? How does our surrounding environment influence our motivation? There are emotional factors that can serve as a source of motivation. Whether it's fear or euphoria, our emotional states associated with our athletic performance. Social factors are a source for motivation. It's human nature to avoid failure. The fear of failure is sometimes the greatest motivating factor of all. How and what we think about are another source of motivation. Some are motivated to improve a skill relative to a past performance. These athletes are willing to be challenged and are not afraid of failure. But to the contrary, there are some completely motivated by ego. They're not concerned with mastering a skill, but instead are driven by outperforming someone else. The relationship between motivation and hard work is a two-way street. Working harder increases motivation, and increased motivation leads to greater effort. You can't wait around for a catalyst to ignite your passion for success. You have to make it happen. Be the hardest worker in the room. Being a student athlete in college is a challenge on any level. To enjoy the experience, you must really love your sport, but understand there's a bigger picture. At some point in our lives, sports ends for everybody, but one thing that lasts forever is your education. In a world that's more diverse than ever, knowledge is power. Use the experience of being a college athlete to support your career path, your relationships, and your faith. The ability to be persistent and to persevere are two takeaways we should all experience from being an athlete. These same traits will serve you throughout your entire life. They will never fail you and will help define you as the person you are and the person you will become.